been living under a rock this past weekend, or have you been missing some of the greatest esports competitions known to man? This entire past weekend, we have been absolutely adorned with fantastic esports throughout all of Saudi Arabia on the Esports Boulevard. Esports World Cup is upon us. Mid-season Invitational just concluded this past weekend. My name is Andy. Joining with me is Chris, and we are back again as a tandem duo for another episode of Today in Esports. Chris, you just got back from Vancouver, man. How was it up there?
It was great. Not as hot. And I came back to the heat wave of Charlotte, and I'm instantly regretting it. But I had a lot of fun.
Yeah, definitely as far as the difference for humidity is concerned, but the gameplay was definitely some more heat. We're going to be breaking down everything for League of Legends later on down the road. But as we were talking about from the introductions, Esports World Cup did just start this past week. It's week one of many there in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia on the Esports Boulevard. And there's a lot of different tournaments happening, mostly concluding this past weekend. We're going to be starting off with Valor, one of our big four games that we talk over here for the Global Gaming Network channel is over in Riyadh, and it just concluded with its champions. Of course, we have a lot to break down. You had so many different teams being invited, and then we also had a lot of different group stages as well. 4 different groups for 2 different victors to then be slotted into a single elimination bracket. Here's how it all started off with Group A with some household favorites in the mix.
Yeah, and this is probably one of the groups to look out for. Paper Rex, the winners of Masters Toronto, making their way into it. They would qualify. Taking a look at Group B here, though, we had Sentinels, DRX, XLG, a lot of household favorites.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, G2 obviously playing with a fill-in. They lost out, obviously, so they didn't make it to the single elimination bracket. Group C is where things got interesting. Team Heretics lost to NRG, only put up 4 rounds in that best of 1, and then proceeded to 2-0 RRQ. We'll give more significance to that later on down the road, as Group D had a lot of Apex heavy hitters in there. You got Edward Gaming, China's former #1, going up against Jinji, Apex former #1, but it would be Fnatic runner-up from that Masters Toronto incursion to make it through alongside Gen G. And then throughout all the different playoff brackets, we only have so much time, obviously, so the quarterfinals did pan out in such a way. 2 O's across the board to set up the semifinals.
Yes, and well, we had a lot to kind of look at. Masters Toronto was just a couple weeks ago, so we kind of had a lot to go off of going here, but we saw some big ones. Team Heretics making their ways out of the qualifiers into the playoff bracket after not even making it to the playoff bracket at Toronto, and they had a great run that we'll talk about a little bit later. PRXO doing a good job of making their way forward, but we'll have to go over some of the games now, won't we?
Yeah, semifinals coming right our way here. We do have a wonderful highlight package to showcase all of that. Fnatic versus PRX on our screen first, and as we were already alluding to, this is a best-of-3 rematch from a best-of-7 grand finals that happened in Masters Toronto. And yeah, if you're a fan of Valorant, your butts were absolutely glued to watch this fantastic series unfold. Started off on Sunset was Paper X's pick, and funnily enough, this was actually the first time throughout the entirety of Esports World Cup that we saw Paper X play Sunset. It was banned in their previous matches, and they said in an interview afterwards, Chris, they only played it a handful of times. They were able to take it versus Fnatic.
Yeah, they looked really good doing it, but finally, the Fnatic would come back and get some of the revenge that they missed out on Toronto here. And as you said, alluding to, it's only a best-of-3 when they had previously played a best-of-7, so they really had to come down to the wire here. They're already on series point, but they would make it count. Then we would move on to the map #3 here on Split the Decider, and Fnatic just looked really good.
Yeah, they really did. Paper X just came out absolutely flat, and that's really tough to say given how wonderfully they looked on this map mode combination going back all the way to Masters Toronto. So it would end up being Fnatic's map to win here and the series to boot, and it's all real thanks to this young man right here. Kayak is in his rookie season. We were kind of gassing him up during Masters Toronto, and what he was able to produce then, he will then take down Paper X so he can put at least that demon to rest. And then we flip over towards the other semifinal. Was Team Heretics on that run? Again, recency bias is a fickle mistress, and well, Team Heretics are absolutely falling to that one going up against Gen G, Apex true #1.
Yes, and so they would take the first map on Ascent, then we would swap over to Haven, where we would see a little bit of a comeback from Jinji here. Texture, Munchkin absolutely popping off on this map here. They would win Haven, but then go to the Decider on Lotus, where once again, it would come down to the wire.
Yeah, it really did, right? I mean, this is Team Heretics going to be in their best bet, right? They're playing defensive setups, mostly just trying to rely on Benji Fishy for these controlling members, but they actually didn't have too strong of a Sentinel setup there. So Gen G will end up losing that map #3 to Team Heretics. It's an all EMEA Grand Final, which means it's an all APAC third match to go down to see who's going to take away the third place championship matters, mostly just for club championship points. We'll talk about more of that later on. And then obviously the prize pool dispersion. So Paper X, they will fight Genji on Sunset to start things off, but Genji, they got the ball rolling just a little bit too soon. Down to a 1v1, trying to at least play for the pop, and the judge might just get the job done for Karen, but he's running out of time. Smokes the bomb, Judge throws out the shot, and then gets the kill on a Forsaken to be able to win that map. And then the subsequent series, Genji would end up taking that third place.
They would, and you have to think that it's really big, especially with these inter-regional playing each other, and then they'll have to go into the next split that's coming up afterwards. That will move us onwards towards champs towards the end, so we have a lot to look forward to. But as you said, the big one, though, is going to be that EMEA inter-regional fight against each other. Fnatic, once again, making it to a grand finals. Team Heretics, though, finally showing what they could have possibly had done had they had more time in Toronto. But here we are, kicking it off on Lotus, which would be Fnatic's pick going into this grand finals here.
Over this past calendar year, these teams have faced each other more than a handful of times, as they are both from the EMEA region, but it's split right down the middle. But most of the important fact is the times that they face each other in grand finals of the EMEA stage over the past year. Fnatic has always had the head-to-head over Team Heretics, and I think that these first two maps would certainly showcase that. Starting off on Lotus, this was Fnatic's pick. They did have the leisure to be able to pick that, and they were able to win it. To say decisively would be putting it lightly. Crashes was everything, and Team Heretics came out absolutely flat. Going in towards the Sunset map, number 2, you would think for Heretics would be better. It's their map pick. Nope, not the case at all. They only put up a single round on that Sunset for the map number 2. A collective 5 rounds between the first 2 maps. You mean to tell me that that team is then going to be put up on a pedestal to have to reverse sweep versus Fnatic?
Well, and they would, though. It would all start on map number 3. We'd finally start to see Team Heretics kind of start showing what got them to that finals in EMEA that led to Toronto, and then what got them here to this grand finals in this last in EWC. And we have to think that it's really good for them to be able to take that Icebox and then move on to Haven here. They finally get back to their pick. They would show why it's their pick. Of course, they wouldn't go down without a fight. Both are putting up some good numbers there, saying no on that clutch. But we'd finally start to see Boo, Mini Boo, and even Benji Fish start to kind of shine here at the end of Haven and into Ascent. And it looked really good for them going into that last map as well.
Dude, Woot on this ISO was everything that Heretics needed on the offense. He went 13-5 on this side, and as you were highlighting, Boo was right behind him at 10-3 as well. And keep in mind, Heretics only put up 3 rounds defensively on Haven, but they still won the map 13-10, forcing the decider of a map 5 against Fnatic. And when I tell you that Afaye was in his absolute bag on the chamber for this map number 5, that'd be putting it lightly. He was somewhere near, well, there it is right there, 13-7 through the first half alone on chamber. Fnatic, they were leading into the second half.
Yes, and well, Team Heretics had a lot coming out, as we're talking about as well. Mini Boo coming out here. We were wanting to see more of him through Masters Toronto. Finally would get a little bit more, getting this clutch at the end to get the round. They'd finally go up against Fnatic on the last Crashy. He's trying to do his best when you're up against 5. You just really can't bring it back at that point. Team Heretics, look at them. They look so happy, and you have to imagine such a weight off of their chest after the Toronto showing, coming into EWC, finally getting that win. Benji Fish as well, going from Fortnite into Valorant here and getting his first dub in Riyadh.
The curse is finally broken for Team Heretics. For this roster, they finally put one big demon to rest out from their region. Fnatic, they always got the better of Team Heretics in grand finals, but not this time around. Big shout out to Mini Boo and Boo. They joined the likes of some really decorated individuals, the Ogre Twins, you got the Royal Brothers, as well as Persini Arcides from COD. 2 brothers to actually win a championship series alongside each other. So big congratulations to them. You already highlighted Benji Fishy in the jump that he was able to produce for himself. But then finally putting and snapping the curse. Team Heretics take down Fnatic. It went the absolute distance. And again, posing the question, a team that put up 5 total rounds through 2 first maps, reverse swept Fnatic, a team that was in Grand Finals of Masters Toronto. Team Heretics didn't even make it out of the Swiss stage back in Masters Toronto. They were able to come out on EWC on top. So big congratulations to them. Commiserations as far as Fnatic is concerned. Their eyes are going to be set forward towards stage 2, but maybe they could take a page out from this book. Maybe you want to be able to aim as well as Benji Fishy across a multitude of esports. Where you can do that is Aim Labs. It is the #1 aim trainer across the internet. Here's a word from our sponsor.
Games are about competition, a way to test our skill and prove we are better. Challenge is in our nature. We need to know what we're capable of. How far can we go? It's a question that drives millions of gamers to push themselves and prove that it's only a matter of sheer will. Ever since first-person shooters came into the esports scene, players have never stopped defying the odds through the most important mechanic of them all: aim. Aim is everything. It's a set of skills that needs to be trained, and this is where science and gaming meet in Aim Labs. The aim trainer that redefines what gaming means, because science doesn't leave anything to chance. Winning is never a matter of luck. Every brief moment of greatness takes constant and unrelenting preparation, and that's exactly what Aim Labs is about. We enable players to thrive and upset the balance. Together, we elevate play.
Aiming is really, really important, especially for those FPS games, but I would say even more important when it comes down to your skill shots. And what a wonderful segue that would be when it goes over towards Vancouver again. Chris, Party Foul just flew back in last night from Vancouver from the Mid-Seasons Invitational. Grand Finals just concluded this past weekend, brother. It was a hell of a tournament.
It was, and to say hell of a tournament is putting it at the least. It's probably one of the most electric atmospheres I've experienced at a League of Legends tournament so far. And boy, did the teams produce. We had the most amount of silver scrapes in an MSI. And well, we'll take a look at this bracket here. It says it all. We start at the top though. Of course, Gen G taking over G2. We move on to those next winners finals though. Look at that, Gen G 3-2 AL. Then we have BLG T1 3-0. Moving down to the losers. Unfortunately, FlyQuest, that was the game I got there first for, would end up they would end up winning, but then they would lose to BLG. And let me tell you, that was probably one of the most exciting matches that I saw.
Yeah, anyone's legend you saw right there. Also eliminating the Flying Oysters, a lot of household favorites down there in the lower bracket. Of course, FlyQuest, NA's last hope, being eliminated the way that they did, going up against BLG, China's former #1 from the LPL region. It was going to be a tough uphill battle for FlyQuest, no matter the way that you shook it. But as the week continued to progress, we saw more and more fearless drafts. We saw a lot better strategies being showcased throughout the entirety of it. So as the MSI bracket was continuing, Chris, what caught your eye mostly as we were getting in towards that winner's final?
I mean, if you took a look at the top 3 teams, so AL, T1, Gen G, all of them kind of playing the same similar meta, and it was a lot of the time coming down to draft. If you looked at all the games, we had 3-2s across the board for all of them, semifinals, finals, upper winners as well. And it was because who was getting the best of the draft in it. A lot of times you would see some of the same champions, but they would kind of get mixed up in what we saw. And I think that really alluded to how this fearless draft has made a much better viewing experience for the fans, but has also made it much more competitive for a lot of the teams as well.
Yeah, sure. I couldn't agree more. I mean, when you talk about it from a top 3 perspective, we should be getting an update here for the bracket as well with all the clip packages. Look, anyone's legend, LPL's #1. This team being put together the way that they did should be very happy, because the only 2 teams that they lost to, Chris, all weekend were the grand finalists.
They were, and they looked really good. I can't wait to see them go into EWC and how they produce the LPL Split 3. But these grand finals, though, they come out. T1 loses to Gen G in what we would consider almost our LPL grand finals for playoffs, because we were denied that due to the LCK split on how they got to MSI themselves. So we finally saw that. We saw Gen G taking the 3-2 win over T1 in that game. We come back though, T1, Baker, they were saying that this is the road. They have to get through them in order to win this. They're going to come back with a vengeance, and they did in this game 1. And let me tell you, this is probably the best Faker game that we saw all weekend on this Orianna. He was completely popping off on it, and on top of that, we didn't have the Nocturne with it. So you were looking at this game on don't have Nocturne, but they have the Orianna. How's he going to do? Well, he did absolutely amazing. On top of that, Gumayushi got his We did see the Jin on it. We do see him popping off with the curtain call here. Last shot comes in, takes out Chovy, and T1 looked really good. And as we saw in what they were doing in a lot of these matches is they put a lot of emphasis on the Dragons. When they were able to get these Dragons, despite losing it here, they were still able to pop off.
Gumayushi on the Jin, definitely taking that one away from Ruler, who's been having a lot of good time on that Legend throughout the entirety of the tournament thus far. And I'm glad that you highlighted Faker on the Orianna. I mean, seeing the Talia on the opposite side was such an early pick out of Gen.G that you know that Faker was sitting there licking his lips. He wanted to see the Talia in mid because he knows that matchup super well with the Orianna, his pocket pick for so many years.
Yes, and Doran actually having a really good game on this one, but Kyria, I want to highlight, in his game against anyone's Legend, dancing around on that All-Star, brought it back out. Game number 1, looked really good on it once again. And we can see again the curtain call, this time coming out to get some damage. But despite going down in Dragons and actually losing the Otacon in this one as well, which kind of seemed to be a flip-flop in these games for them, whoever got Otacon almost seemed to lose when it came down to Gen.G versus T1 in a lot of their games. It would be T1 who were able to take advantage of the map, completely outplaying Gen.G in this first game here, 16-6 that we see at the end for the scoreline. Faker, godlike, they take game number 1, looked really good going into it, but you can never count Gen.G out.
You really can't. So going in towards this game number 2, it's fun to say that T1, no matter the side that they're on, continuously banned away both the Pantheon and the Varus. That was a continuation, but over on this side, they got rid of the Azir. The Nico was the constant worry for Gen.G. They don't want to see Carry on that. They don't want to see Faker on in the mid. Either way, Nico's Pop Blossoms can be a real pain in the rear. But going in towards this second map for Gen.G, I really did like the way that they picked out this entire Brewster composition. I mean, setting up Ryze in the mid, you can get a hook, you can get Vi for the initiation, or the Scion. Really Gen.G's pick of the litter when it comes down to initiation.
Yeah, and unfortunately for T1, they really didn't seem to be able to hit on the Galio this tournament. It always seemed like the ultimates were just kind of off there, never really able to get something going. Chovy, unfortunately, going a little to him on this realm walk here. Gonna get up Gumayushi, gonna be able to pick up a couple kills, but that Scion just too tanky at the moment, can't shred through it. Kyria unfortunately unable to stay alive, and King is just gonna be able to turn around, jump on that cork and get a kill. I mean, Gumayushi though had an absolutely amazing tournament. Even in these games that they were losing to Gen.G in, he ended up only going 4-5 in this game. Actually did a lot better as the tournament went on. I think he's kind of solidified his place as that number 1 starting ADC, maybe going into rounds 3 through 5 for T1 going forward. But again, as you're talking about, looking at Chovy, 11-1-9 on this Ryze, and then Keen on that tanky Scion. Only 4 kills, but 12 assists means he was just sitting there and doing his job, soaking the damage, but being that wall that allowed them to get that win.
Yeah, I mean, not seeing Faker on a hyper carry, not popping off is not a good look for T1, but the Ryze now fully taken away. That's the way that Fearless Draft does work. So we go in towards this third game. We got T1 back on the blue side, and there's that Nocturne you were talking about. Comes in towards the mix in game 3. Wasn't banned away by Gen.G. They actually elected to get rid of the Varus Pantheon themselves going in towards this one, and then the Victor Nico banned on the opposite side for T1.
Yeah, and if I want to go back and say who I think Owner's best champion of the tournament was, I definitely think it was the Nocturne. His ultimates were just out of this world. Whether they were being utilized as more utility to turn off the lights to secure kills, or if it was turned around to get objectives, he was doing really good. But Kyria on this game, as we said, put on a Renata masterclass. This game, I still think they could have won, but I don't think it would have been as dominant without Kyria just landing all of these ultimates, completely just holding them until the last second needed, and then hitting multiple, usually 4 or 5 members to make them fight each other. It completely turned this game on its head. There we go. We finally see the ultimate game used by Owner, but look at this. It turns around, uses the ult, makes sure that they can secure a second kill. But this is the big one here. Look, all the funneling in from Gen.G, and then there it is, Renata ult, hitting 3 of them. They kill each other. Gumayushi able to secure the triple, and then this is the fight that just allows them to win the game.
That's what I was going to highlight. Carry on the Renata this entire year has been a real problem. You talk about the Nocturne ults, I talk about some really good handshakes, man. Carry has been there throughout the entirety of it, not to mention probably number 1, if not already solidified, support, helps out get things a little bit more in T1's side. But this game number 4, this is where I felt that Fearless draft kind of got a little bit lost in the T1 camp. They lost the plot going in towards this one, setting up their 2 hyper carries, Guma on the Jinx, you got Faker on the Hwei, and they were really trying to set themselves up on a pedestal to carry them through the game. And what Gen G does on the opposite side was absolutely lovely. It just was one Trundle pick away from dispersing all of the front line to get into the hyper carries of T1.
Yeah, and I think they definitely picked this because they saw the success in it in Game 5 versus Anyone's Legends. But you have to remember that in terms, I think, of just overall team fighting, right now Gen G is on top of that pedestal. So when they went into this game, you know, they had a theory and they had a plan that worked against Anyone's Legends. It just didn't work against Gen G. And that Trundle pick came out massive for them in this game. Canyon 109, but then you have Chovy who was able to get ahead on that Victor. And when you get ahead on that Victor, you're just able to shred through that big tanky line that we had from T1. They're ultimately going to lose. We go back to another Silver Scrapes, the final Silver Scrapes, and it would be Gen G who comes out on top of this game. We go into game number 5. They actually pick the Pyke, which was picked against them in game number 5 in that upper winners finals, but this time they kind of show them how they should play it.
Oh, absolutely. I think that if the game 4 draft got away from them, I think that this game 5 draft absolutely solidified everything. I mean, you want to talk about impact in the top lane, that Aatrox was a real issue. You want to talk about impact in the opposite way, that Renekton just simply was not it. Ken was running over everybody he could possibly find, and when you look at the draft on paper, the Pyke MF combination is really good, but Karma and Caitlyn, you feel like should be a staple combination for Carriot and Guma to set themselves up to win games. And this time, it just was not it. T1 on the blue side, they will lose out just so early on. Dragons, kills, whatever other buff you could possibly find. Gen G had everything in their back pocket to be able to win Silver Scrapes and MSI to boot.
Yes, and as you said, Keen, on that Aatrox, so what can you do at the end when he's popping off like that? World Ender going out, able to zone out for the rest of his team to get the kills. They're going to go in, clean up T1, and again, it is Chovy. They are back-to-back. They won last year in 24, so that means they are once again the back-to-back MSI Grand Finalists and Champions. Chovy crowned the Oppo Finals MVP, of course, did amazing throughout all their games, regardless if it was a win or a loss. And actually, just his impact overall the whole entire tournament was amazing, though. But there it is, Gen G taking that 3-2. Once again, this is a 23 series streak for Gen G right now.
Yeah, which is just insane. I mean, how many map 5s that they went through, not only in this tournament, but how many series and Silver Scrapes that they are converting along the way against the world's best. Again, we got treated to a banger of a grand final, Gen G versus T1. Always delivers. Chovy versus Faker, you know, always delivers. You saw the beginning of that series, 61-61 was the current record. Now Chovy's got the leg up in the 1v1 overall, but maybe the discussion is a little bit too premature as we have so much more League of Legends on the docket for the rest of the year.
We do, and as you said, we still have to go in. We have EWC starting on the 16th, so this week, 2 days, they're flying straight out from Vancouver to Riyadh to play. They only have 2 days of rest to get in it, and they have to go once again. And then right after that, we jump straight into Split 3 to start getting towards Worlds. So we have a lot going on for League of Legends and a lot more to come in the next coming days.
Game's not changing all too much. Only so many patches that we can get for League of Legends, but you bet your butts will be seated for Chris to go over everything to do with Esports World Cup League of Legends as the week progresses for a multitude of shows queued up. The small short ties that we got going out on Wednesdays and Fridays, and then of course on Monday we'll be breaking down everything that we possibly can be. But speaking of Esports World Cup, we're taking a focus back over towards Riyadh because it's not just League of Legends that we're going to be talking about from MOBAs. Dota 2 has been rocking on as far as Riyadh is concerned.
It has, and well, this is probably one of the last S-tier tournaments that we're going to see before we go into TI as well. So we're having a massive look at what we might see before, a couple qualifiers before that, but I have been really looking forward to this. I'm going to have to rewatch some of the games, but I did get to see some of those qualifying matches We saw some of the big teams come out, and it's pretty much what I expected. Team Liquid moving on, Falcons moving on, Spirit, Na'Vi falling just a little bit short. I know that they would lose a qualifying match going on a little later on then, but if we're looking at the Dota circuit points, pretty much what we're seeing here is what we're seeing across the board for that as well. So nothing really big in my eyes that's been turning heads on major upsets, but we'll have to take a little bit longer look into it. But of course, Group A here. Now going into Group B, BB team taking the wins over. We have Gladiator Gaming. Team Falcons, of course, would make that qualifiers, as I said as well. All these teams coming in looking pretty good. Aurora, Tundra, also very good. BP actually getting knocked out was probably one of the ones I was a little confused about, but of course it is the Esports World Cup. But let's jump into some of these games. As I said, we had Falcons going up against Na'Vi in the qualifier matches to make the group stage, which will be played this coming week now, which I believe starts on the 16th. And they looked really good. I mean, I'm taking a look at what we're seeing here. Unfortunately, the Timber Cell not going to do exactly what Na'Vi wanted to do, going to go ahead and fall there. But the comps are looking pretty good across it. We do see a lot of the team fight coming out. Looked really good from Team Falcons. I'll have to rewatch the entirety of the match, but I did see a lot of the highlights, including the ones that we saw here. And right now, they look really good. The playoff bracket that was being set up that we'll talk about a little better, I mean, it's pretty much the bracket I would foresee going forward, and I think we're gonna have a fun time.
Yeah, and the reason why all of these group stages are super important, you got 4 round robin groups. The top team will go immediately towards phase 3. I'll tell you more about that in a second. The second place teams from each group go straight in towards the second round of phase 2, and the third place teams, they go into that first round of phase 2. If you place 4th within your group, you are eliminated from Esports World Cup top 16. In towards phase 2, that's the elimination phase where the 4th and 3rd place teams from each of the respective groups would be playing against each other, and then the top 4 from those groups would then advance in towards phase 3, which is that single elimination bracket that Chris is talking about to be able to set yourself up for grand finals, which would be a best of 5. Everything is a best of 3 thus far as Dota 2 is concerned, but they have a $3 million prize pool in the first place team takes home us $1 million. So I think when you put it on the grander scheme of things, Dota 2 deserves your eyes and attention as the tournament is continuing on. We're just done with group stage right now, and we're just getting in towards the heavy money matches for top 8 once this week does start to continue.
Yeah. I'll take a look at these clips now. I was talking about the Timber Cell not doing too well for Na'Vi. Turn around, put it in Falcons' hands here. Oh man, that's looking really good, especially with that Bangalore there at the end. They are going to be able to take that win. As you said, it is only a best of 3, so it would go 2-0 in the side of Falcons against Na'Vi for them to win in their qualifying match to get the playoffs, into which they would end up going to face against Team Liquid, who is one of the top runners right now if you're looking at the Dota circuit points in everything going on. So that's going to be a really tough game for them. But the playoffs are set, as we said. I'm not sure if we have the bracket up. Yep. So actually, we're going to take a look at. There's actually no. We're going swapping right over to Apex. We might be talking about that, but if we're going to go over that bracket a little bit, we did have Spirit, Gleaming Gladiators, T-Vision versus Aurora, Tundra versus BB, and then, as I said, Liquid versus Falcons. It's going to be set up for a really good, and it might be a little bit of what we're seeing before we're going into TI in September. So we're going to have to sit down. $3 million prize pool, as you said, is probably one of the biggest there.
It probably is. It's definitely up there as far as prize pools are concerned. Definitely that bottom side of the bracket, TL versus Falcons, should be a very good match. Whoever wins that series very much so might go on to win the entire thing. But they got to get past Spirit on the opposite side. Who knows? But make sure that you are glued. Again, Esports World Cup is a 1 week done, 6 weeks more to go. So we're continuing on with all of the updates as the weeks progress. We'll see you next Monday for a continuation for Dota 2. But we're going over towards Apex now. Talking about EWC of what just went down as far as Apex is concerned. And they had themselves a wild tournament. Last year's format was up to 60 points for match point format, and it comes back in for Esports World Cup this time around. They're in their mid-season invitational at this moment in time, so it is another one of those tournaments within the tournaments for Apex Legends, but they did their group stage, 2 different days of pool play, and if you were able to place top 7 within each one of those pools, you immediately went over towards finals. If you place anywhere besides the bottom 3, you went over towards the last chance. If you place top or bottom 3 within each one of those pools, you're eliminated, done. Your Esports World Cup ends right then and there. So it was a multi-phase type ordeal for Apex Legends, and there was a lot to go over. So we'll talk about the results first. This was the second day of pool play where Alliance and 100 Thieves, and the insurmountable lead that Alliance were able to build for themselves. So many different clutch moments for them as they were able to lead their lobby. 100 Thieves were able to make it through. That's Vern Holz's new team, ROC Esports. If you watch the tournament, you definitely want to be keeping an eye out for them. But as you see, Unlimited, SVI Esports, and Fusion, they would all be eliminated at that moment in time. Everybody else, 8 through 17, they'll be in that last chance ordeal, including It's Timmy's, NRG, and Albert Laley's Twisted Minds.
Yeah, looking at those kill points for Alliance, absolutely insane. But now we're moving over to that last chance stage on what we're talking about, those teams that needed to qualify. And there we do. We see our top 6 there. Genji leading the pack, along with Liquid, Cinders, Furia, Nemesis, and Interforce. All those teams would make it to that final stage where they would battle out against the teams that had qualified from that group stage, and we had some really good games going on.
Yeah, we really did. You see NRG there at 7th. They were able to win, I want to say, like, game number 4, but, like, they were unable to convert enough points. Twisted Minds also, I think, won game number 3, unable to convert enough points. So those are household favorites. Again, Albert Laley, he was a part of that TSM roster that won the inaugural LAN for Apex Legends way back in the day. And then NRG's It's Timmy also came out with a tweet saying that it was his last ride. He is done competing. He's now going over towards full-time content creation again. Or is it the last time we'll see Timmy create or compete in Apex Legends or any FPS for that matter? I don't know. Timmy's the one to decide that one. But we do have clips for you guys just to go over everything to do with match point finals. If you're unfamiliar, the way the match point finals do work, if you reach 50 points, winning games or not, you reach a match point threshold. Now, if you're at match point threshold and you go in towards the next game and you win the entire tournament. This game had so much action. This is just game number 2 with Saucer from ROC telling his team just to shut the heck up and leave him to his own devices to be able to win the 1v2 there on top of the rock. Was massive as ROC were able to put themselves up on match points so quickly.
Yeah, but as you said, they would have to win after that, and it would take, up to, I believe, 7 matches?
Yeah.
And after that to go ahead and get the win. And we're seeing a lot of the teams come in. 100 Thieves here trying to get the win on their game in match number 4. Then we swatch over to Wolves getting eliminated, going back to Rock, trying to find their win. We do see them as a kill leader, but they wouldn't be able to take the win just yet.
No, they wouldn't. Vaxon kind of overextending. And the way that things do work here in Apex comparatively to last, if you watch Esports World Cup last year, we do have bans. The way that it works, the most picked legend in the previous map gets banned going in towards the next one. So you really got to pick and choose which legends you are bringing towards the mix. Ninjas in Pajamas was one of the other teams that was first there up on match point. This is match number 7. They're playing the small building just outside of the POY, and you do have a lot of information with Karev on the Sparrow. Lockdown with the Caustic as well as Vayne trying to play an off angle, and they want to try to win things out here. But a nice Kraber shot comes through from Genji, and they white nip where they previously stood, but Genji immediately gets traded. Vayne having to go and try to win things out the hard way, drops down, does not do it. We go in towards another game for match number 8, and now we have a moment where we could either push towards the next if one team, the solo player of one team was able to win, but now there for the final 3, everybody's on match point. QQ, last player alive to try to clutch things up for his team. Genji trying to force it for another match, and they lock everybody inside the small store. We go again.
Yes, and there we would go to number 9, and this is where we would finally find our champion, and we are following them right now. VK Gaming looking for the win. Circle is closing in, jumps down, finds the last member, and gets the kill. They are our Apex champions here at EWC.
The VK Gaming Chinese squad from the APAC region, they emerged victorious from this very grueling 9 match point finals of Apex Legends at Esports World Cup, and you can see the elation on their faces and all of their fans as well. With the first place finish, they earned $600,000 in prizing, 3,000 championship points for the ALG season, and 1,000 Esports World Cup championship points for VK Gaming. I don't even know how many games that they're honestly there for, but they join the likes of so many different teams that are only there for one esport to be up at the top of the leaderboard after the first week of Esports World Cup. It's just insane scenes. Again, a lot of people, as far as APAC South is concerned, kind of slept on them. They continuously are being slept on, and they have always been stepping up in a massive way. Team Falcons, definitely one of the favored teams to try to win things out after the bye that they got from 0 to combine with Imperial Hal on that roster. Came up short. We also saw, the coach from TSM that was with them throughout the entirety of all their championship wins with Hal Alberlele in reps. He was the coach for Ninjas in Pajamas. They came up short as well, and they were on match point very, very quickly. The same could be said for ROC, but that's the beauty of Apex Legends, is that with match point finals, you really never know who's going to win.
Yeah, and it was pure just entertainment throughout. If you haven't seen it, make sure you go back and watch it. You can check the EWC website to see all the past streams. And to see if you missed any games, you can see who the winners are. If you just want to check it out, make sure you do that. But again, we'll be covering everything EWC related, so you can get all the news here as well. But that was a great one. We'll have to move down, put the one controller away, pick up some other controllers though, some fighting sticks, because we have some fighters at EWC as well, and it was great.
He did it! EWC Fatal Fury champion! He finally did it! The first person to ever dethrone.
Insane. Goichi. Again, an old head when it comes to fighting games. If you're unfamiliar with Goichi, he was actually at the top of the echelon for Dragon Ball FighterZ. He was competing against Sonic Fox, most notably, for almost every single grand finals. Goichi was one of the players that was constantly adjusting his team to be a part of the meta. He goes up against Zhao Hai, who is a player, if you just heard the commentary as well, has not dropped a single series. Since Fatal Fury, COW has actually come out, has not dropped a single series in grand finals. And Goichi, I mean, it took the absolute distance, but he got the job done.
Yeah, and he looked great doing it. I mean, we have some clips to show of this, and just, it looks good. I mean, we take a look at the groupies first. We have Zhao Hai, of course, moving on through the Group A. Chris G, unfortunately, getting knocked out before being able to qualify as well. We take a look at Group B. We have a couple moving on. Big one, though, was looking at, I believe it was ET, moving on. I remember Reynad losing those earlier matches. We'll take a look at this once again, but going on to Group C, though, we'll take a look there. This is Group. Goichi was in, gonna go ahead and qualify his 3 winners as well, along with Dark Angel. And just what he had through theirs. Luckily, I was able to watch some of those because it's a little easier to watch on the airplane coming back. But taking a look at Group B, though, it would be Mock and RB moving on through the winners Group D to make it to their playoff stage. And, well, what a playoffs it was.
Yeah, that sets up a playoff stage for a couple of fighters that might be very familiar with themselves, some other fighters that may not be at all familiar with what they are bringing to the table. Big shout out for Dark Angel. He was one of the very few players that actually played Terry throughout the entirety of it. The namesake for this game of Fatal Fury, of course, came up short in his match versus Zhao Hai. But this is grand final, setting things up versus Goichi. It went the absolute distance, and boy, was it fun. He lost. Goichi's entire tournament is very interesting because he played Kane mostly, and the only time when we saw him swap was after he lost to ET in one game, then he swapped over to Marco. But Kane was the pick, going up against Zhao Hai's Billy, who has been taking names and running pockets since Fatal Fury's release.
Yes, and going down, especially here as well, you just kind of think Zhao Hai is going to run away with it again, because that's just what we're used to. But the Goichi coming back, as you said, has so much experience. It's not going to let these matches go down and make him feel bad. Down 0-2 and just brings it back.
Yeah, Goichi here on the Kane. The one thing that he's very, very good at continuously through a lot of different fighters are these different frame traps. Watch this corner trap in the pressure. Fireball comes out overhead, getting blocked, but then he always throws himself in the corner. The overextension for Goichi puts himself in an unfavored position. Zhao Hai very aware of it. Goichi trying to fight out from the corner. So difficult to do. All of the fireballs, all of the EX being spent as well. That could have gotten sticky, but Goichi was able to convert it.
Yes, and it would end up winning 5-3. I mean, taking those off, those games, not even allowing that 4th game for Zhao Hai to come back. Just really good. But as I said, he went down 0-2, was able to battle it back, back against the wall a couple of times in these matches. But as you said, just looks really good, and especially the Kane here looking really good as well. Because I believed when he was in Combo Break, he was probably playing that Marco, I believe, as well during that tournament that he was able to end up winning. And just coming in, able to play this Kane so well in this tournament against probably what people would consider the best Fatal Fury player right now. it's just absolutely amazing.
Yeah, it really is. Again, Goichi able to get the job done, frame trapping, and all of the different illusions that he was able to produce with Kane there in the corner traps. He gets Jai, and you could just see just what it means for Goichi. I mean, for how long he's been competing in fighting games to be able to take down Zhao Hai in grand finals, dethroned him, the first loss that he's had for a championship. Goichi getting back on top of a ladder board for a fighting game is something that I personally have not seen in quite a handful of years. He's so thankful, and the kid just grinds his living heart out when it comes down to a lot of these different fighting games. All of the emotion just pouring out from him, just doesn't even know what to do with himself. Finally is going to stand back up here in a few moments' time to congratulate his opponent on a really well done tournament. But I mean, to be the champion for Fatal Fury COTW, not a lot of people had this grand finals. Not a lot of people had Goichi being in the way that he did. They had him out of groups for sure, but maybe not even making it towards grand finals, and then being able to beat Zhao Hai, as you were saying, Chris, going down 0-2 and then putting him down in the way that he did was absolutely insane scene. Big tournament coming through for Goichi, not to mention for his organization. Again, another team that gets an unprecedented 1,000 club championship points at EWC.
Yeah, and you definitely want those club points going towards your name. You know, just the prestige as well from getting those and being one of those top clubs participating at EWC is amazing. But let's go ahead and look at it. Just the amount put into it. You can see just how happy he is being able to take that, as you said. What a big point in his career to be able to take it after competing for so long. But this is the playoff bracket, and this is how they both got here. As you said, did end up going against ET, did end up dropping one of those, but ended up, being able to go on face off against Mock and then make his way to the grand finals. Great job by him in that. I mean, as I'm a big fan of Goichi, so it was really cool to see that him make it all the way there, but we'll have to see how Zhao Hai bounces back.
Yeah, again, there's so many more tournaments for Fatal Fury. This is just the beginning. Had so many different viewership records being broken, and again, the game was just so hype. I believe that this is not going to be the last that we see for Goichi fighting for a championship, but we'll keep you tuned for all the FGC news as weeks do progress. We do have Street Fighter and Tekken still to go over for Esports World Cup in weeks to come, but we got more games to talk about for Esports World Cup. Chris, you may have just got back from Vancouver when it comes down to League of Legends. Mobile Legends Bang Bang has been going on for week 1 there at Esports World Cup 2.
It has, and this is, of course, one that I did miss because of MSI. Unfortunately, can't keep up with all the MOBAs at the same time, but, Mobile Legends, such a big game in itself, on that mobile game, probably one of the pioneering mobile games that we have in going forward, and we know just how big it is and how competitive those teams are, especially like EWC here. They are going for it.
Yeah, here's that bracket update for the playoffs for you guys. Again, for Mobile Legends Bang Bang is another tournament within a tournament. So MLBB Midseason Cup is also known as the MSC. It's a brand new MLBB International Championship. It's replacing the old Mobile Legends Bang Bang Southeast Asia Cup and an outstanding in the second international season major. So all these different advancings that you're going to be seeing throughout the continuation of this is just setting up for the Mobile Legends Bang Bang main event. So we got qualifiers that are happening throughout the entirety of week number 1 to set up who is going to be our top 8 team going in towards, I want to say it's like week 2 or the end of week 3 is going to be the championship bracket. But here are the groups for you guys. It's 2 different groups to be able to decide, to be able to see who advances towards playoffs. And you can see it is double elimination, continuation. I think it's best of 3s all the way through, and then top 4 advance to that playoff.
Yes, and as you alluded to, they did start in this week 1. We actually do have the female tournament that will be happening in week 2 for Mobile Legends. So it will be moving towards that week 3 where we'll see the continuation of the tournament that went on in week number 1. So a lot going on throughout that, of course. Having the dual tournament for both male and female will be going on. Great to see that happening. So we'll have to see what happens in the women's tournament this week before we get back into that main one next. But we have a lot more going on as well, and not even just MOBAs or shooters, but we also have something that Andy's might be a little bit excited about, some of that race car going on.
Yeah, Rennsport was kicking off there for week 1 as far as Esports World Cup is concerned. I'm pretty sure it was like the last week of the Esports World Cup 2024, but this year for 2025, we started off hot and ready for Rennsport. Again, as far as this competition is concerned, this was a spring season conclusion going into Esports World Cup, so again, another tournament within a tournament. The 4th through 9th teams from the spring season invitational, they're going to be starting with their backs against the wall already, and they're going to be having to race against each other in a last chance just to fulfill the groups. We only have so much time to be going over all this, so trust me, there's a lot to talk about first place team from each one of those groups immediately goes over towards the finals. And then if you were one of the bottom teams from those two different pools, well, then you go in towards that last chance race to then go in towards a potential conclusion to make it in towards finals. But the way the Rennsport works, there's only 12 slots available. Each team has 4 racers. So you can only have 3 teams on the grid at a single time, which is why you only have 3 teams competing against each other for so long. But when we got in towards the group stage, that's when you have the 2 different groups between each other, so 6 total teams competing against each other, and then the winner of that, of course, going in towards the finals and then setting themselves up for the last chance race. Here is the conclusion for the standings. You saw BMW Redline. They were able to take the entire tournament again. And if you missed out on last year, Team Redline, Red Bull Racing, whatever you decide to call them, BMW Racing, I don't really care. They are the #1 team for a reason. Sebastian Job and Counterstike, very good supportive driver there. Their team antics throughout the entirety of the weekend set themselves up for success to be able to win the club championship, $1,000.
Yeah, and I'm pretty sure you're watching, knowing a lot more. Of course, I'm just kind of getting more into the automotive sports with the office here, showing me a lot, but really cool to see that they're able to start including some of these more, other type of sports that we see, like the automotive. We did see, as you said, the BMW team going up against BP would end up taking that win. Then going into the lower bracket, we see Team Vitality making it to that final stage, as he alluded to. Since there are 4 drivers for each team, so we can only have 3 teams making it to that grand finals, and it would be that BMW team taking the win overall.
Didn't have much time to talk about it there, the flash of the screen, but the upper bracket and down to the lower bracket, again, it's all cumulative points, so winning races, they may matter in the grander scheme of things, but consistency is realistically what you're looking for. And in that lower bracket, everybody was looking at Porsche Tawanda to bounce back again. That is a household favorite team that did quite well in the spring season, came up flat. They didn't make it all the way through. Williams were fighting against Vitality continuously, but they were able to win out in the lower bracket, so they will be joining the likes of Redline in towards that finals, as we do have a couple different conversation points that we have here. Redline on the BMW, you did have Vitality. I want to say that they were also in the Aston Martin, but regardless, as it does currently stand, they were racing with no damage whatsoever. VP Daniel McCormick was trying to full send it continuously in the finals once he knew that he had to score so many points, and you could just see at the beginning of a lot of those last few races, without any damage or mechanical failures, he was full sending it. He was basically spinning out, and it was setting up Redline for very easy wins as the races progressed. They were also doing a match point format for finals as well. If you reached 250 points and then you won the next race, you were able to win the entire tournament. Didn't really matter at the end of it. Redline, they missed out on 250 point threshold before even getting in towards the final few races. The lead was too insurmountable. Again, winning races is one thing, but they were consistent all the way through.
Yeah. And that's what you definitely want to see, the consistency. I was taking a look at some of the matches here. Of course, seeing BP maybe getting, as you were saying, full sending it in match number 7 to try to take first there. But as you said, at the end of the day, it was that BMW team coming out with just a massive overall, over 100 points in differences between the second place of VP.
Yeah, absolutely insane scenes for Team Redline. Again, they joined the likes of so many different others, as we've been talking about Esports World Cup, to punch their coin on in towards the wall. They'll be up on the leaderboard with 1,000 club championship points. A big congratulations to Team Redline for a conclusion of their spring season with an Esports World Cup win. Well, there were certain highlights to be talked about throughout all of Esports World Cup week number 1, but as I was already alluding to, that's just week 1 of 7. So as week number 2 is about to be getting underway, this is our off day as far as Esports World Cup is concerned. But here's what week 2 has in store for us. Chris is already highlighting, we do have the female international tournament happening for Mobile Legends Bang Bang. So that should be very fun to be setting ourselves up for week number 2, not to mention a handful of other esports that are going to be happening. What are you most excited for?
Well, League of Legends, again, going right back into it. And as you said, there's no patch in between, so we're seeing the teams go straight forward. But this is probably what I'm most excited for. We do have Cloud9 joining, so we do have our second seed from LTA North. We'll be going into that. But let's take a look at this whole entire schedule. As we said, we have a lot. So not only League of Legends, but we also have Free Fire, Dota 2. We'll be having this playoff stage go, King of Honors, and as well as some Overwatch 2.
Yeah, Overwatch 2 should be a very fun time. That's their mid-season championship and all their conclusion as well. So it should be fun to be able to see how those finals do set up. I know that Crazy Raccoon and Falcons have been fighting each other constantly as far as APAC is concerned. But I'm mostly excited for Free Fire, man. You want to talk about like a lot of different mobile games that have been taking the forefront of a lot of people's minds. Mobile Legends Bang Bang. You do have the female tournament that is kicking off there. You can see on July 18th going in towards those finals. And then we also have Free Fire. They will have their Point Rush stage. They're at the end setting up the conclusion for their tournament there on Sunday. But again, there's a lot of different games that are happening. We'll be going over everything, setting up as much as we can on Friday. And then, of course, breaking down everything on Monday. Again, Chris will be here to talk all things League of Legends. But that's all we got as far as Esports World Cup is concerned. What were you most excited for from week one, or your favorite moment? Let us know in the comments down below. But now we're going to be shifting our focus over towards Counterstrike. Almost feels like that we haven't talked about Counterstrike in a bit because we've been off stage for a little bit of time. I know that they are currently doing their play-ins right now. Fisher Playground is about to be underway. The ESL Pro League is always scheming. Those are the play-ins that I was just alluding to. And then we have IEM Cologne at the end of the month. But as far as Counterstrike is concerned, let's start off with some news. Brokey has officially returned back to FaZe, and this is a massive moment for the entirety of FaZe because they've been really struggling to find their identity. We saw that they couldn't buy Simple from his contract of previous, and they're still trying to figure out what they could do to put themselves in the right passage to be able to be a championship form team again. Maybe Brokey coming back could be that player to do so. You let me know how you feel about it in the comments below.
Yes, and well, on top of that, more roster news. Team Liquid has actually decided to keep their roster, so they're deciding to stick with it and see how it plays out for them going forward. We'll have to see. They did see they have some comfort on some of their players. Maybe they're trying to see if the long-standing roster can continue its form and maybe get better as time goes on. As you said, we do have the Playground coming up as well as IEM Cologne, so we'll have to see how they fare coming into those tournaments.
G2 is back in the conversation again, though not the modesty conversation as much as we could try to milk that bad boy. G2 has now just benched Snapped, and in lieu of that, they picked up Maddie's instead. And Maddie's, if you're unfamiliar, is from that MIBR roster. Funnily enough, actually beat that Falcon.
Yes, and well, now we get to talk about some of the meat and bones outside of the roster moves, though. As you said, Fisher's Playground is going to be starting soon. We're finally going to be jumping back into some gameplay. I know everyone has been missing all that lovely Counter-Strike, and well, we finally are going to get jumping back in. The Fisher Playground should be a good indication for us on how teams are looking after some of these roster changes before going into IEM Cologne as well at the end of the month. So it's going to be really nice to see how those teams stack up going forward.
And then final for the Counter-Strike news, big shout out for Fudia as they were able to eclipse from 15th on the VRS rankings all the way up to 9th. This comes after a grand conclusion of what just transpired at the Dallas Major, thanks to Blast for putting that one on. Fudia being able to win a handful of their best of ones, and then being able to make it as far as they did in the championship bracket was definitely a sight to behold. But what are you most excited for? IEM Cologne, Fisher Playground, Spirit maybe trying to bounce things back, all these different roster changes. Call of Duty is about to be at Esports World Cup. We got League of Legends just about to be blowing the roofs off of every venue that they go to. You let us know in the comments down below. And make sure that you subscribe and follow along with the Global Gaming Network channel, whether you are a fan of Queued Up, Skill Def, or Here on Tie. We look forward to the conversations with you. Stay safe, and we'll see you in the next one.